3, 2, 1.
What is going on, Southwest ISD? We are back with another incredible episode talking about Southwest ISD athletics. This is Scoreboard, your podcast for all Southwest ISD athletics. You have myself, Brandon Medina, as well as your athletic director, Peter Wagner, with you every week. We are super excited for this week. It's a big week for the district as a whole, but also a big week for athletics again. Peter Wagner's with us, your athletic director. How are we doing, sir?
How you doing, sir? I can't wait to do a little prognosticating today.
Wow, man. That's a word. That's what I'm talking about. Look at you. You've gone full journalist mode at this point. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
sir.
I like that. All righty. Well, prognostications aside, let's talk about the athletics going on currently. We have soccer and basketball full force. Soccer looks incredible on both sides. Basketball, we're still getting the ball moving, still getting the needle moving in both respective programs. And then we also want to talk softball and baseball coming up next week, which is a huge thing for the district. It's a sport that we've seen a state championship appearance in the past 10 years. We've seen a lot of playoff appearances, and obviously we all know the history, especially in softball, that Southwest ISD has at being really, really good. So we'll talk about that too. But let's focus a little bit on basketball. Tough loss to South San for Southwest, right?
That was brutal.
Yeah,
Yes.
rough loss. Talk to me about how you bounced back as a coach, telling players after a rough game like that at a last-minute loss when it was right there and you lose it. What learning experience can you gain from that?
Well, as we've said over the course of the season on this thing, is the Dragons are young, and so I think from a coaching perspective, it's more like, we've already come back from a 4-game losing streak and came back strong, and so we just get the next one. We get to choose how we respond, right? And so let's go get ready for it. I mean, the Dragons' ending schedule is rough.
Yeah.
I mean, they play the top. The top 4 teams are already done in our district. The Dragons are in the playoffs. The Titans are in the playoffs. Harlandale is probably going to win the district, and then that game with South San was a big seeding game and stuff, and so you just come back ready to go. You know what I mean? You can at least you tell them, let's go get the next game because we need to let's go fight for that next seed, right? And so the pressure of making the playoffs is off, so you just get up and take yourself up and pick yourself up and get to the next one.
That's right. Absolutely.
Choose how you respond.
Yep, choose how you respond. I love that. And so on the women's side, obviously Southwest season is going to be done. A learning experience for sure for a lot of those ladies. What are you looking forward to for the next season? Because obviously we've talked about it in the previous shows. The stat sheet was just stuffed with underclassmen from juniors and sophomores. So it's a young team that got the experience, right? It was a rough season, but something to build off of for next season. What's kind of the plan in your eyes as an athletic director, and then in the mind of a coach for next season?
Well, I think the next part is on the side of the Dragons. They're underclassmen. They're JV and they're freshmen.
Right.
They did well, and so there's some pieces there that they might be able to put into place with that next group coming up. Same thing for the Titans.
Yep.
And so it's more a matter of, all right, the next step to getting better is, you got to get back out on the court in your AAU teams. You got to run some track and get tougher and do all that, and then get ready to go. You know what I mean? The season is the candy at the end of the tunnel. It's just right back to getting better and everything for those guys. On the boys' side, I think it's a matter of, the Dragons got Harlandale. The Titans get a game. They got to go to Eagle Pass tomorrow night, and so that's Eagle Pass has been knocking off everybody.
Yeah,
and especially when you go to Eagle Pass, so it's a big game, And so really, at the end of the day, it's if the Titans win and the Dragons lose, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, what can happen is we're either going to get a game next Tuesday night at Legacy between the Dragons and Titans the end of the season to see who's going to be the number 3 seed and who's going to be the number 4 seed. Who gets to play Alamo Heights?
Good old Fire and Armor basketball.
Who gets to play Sam Houston, or it's going to be the Dragons are down one game, and so if they win, then we get a rematch probably on Friday. They'll play Tuesday, and then we get it right back, and who knows where we're going to play that game.
Nice.
But we'll do that again. And then Monday or Tuesday, they'll play in the playoffs against probably Sam Houston or Alamo Heights.
Good stuff. And one person I want to make sure that we continue to recognize, I think you mentioned to me that I want to recognize Kara Martinez at Legacy. Although their season's come to an end, she's an underclassman and is leading like the district in points scored, almost 17 points scored, 5 assists a game, a couple steals and a couple blocks a game. Just an all-around player. Has been on varsity since freshman year. Looking at the stats, what does it feel? What does it help when a person kind of grows into that leadership role over a 4-year letterman, right? I think that's special in itself. But obviously, you have a player who I believe you told me she scored like 1,000 points.
She's already hit the 1,000-point mark
as a junior. So what is that? I'm sure as a coach, you got to feel at least a little bit of confidence having an established leader, an established scorer going into the next season after a rough start.
Yeah, I think you got a leader that's ready to go and that can step up and show the way a little bit. But everybody's got to step up around her too. You know, I mean, in high school basketball, everybody's got that 1 or 2. But what's your bench look like? What's 3, 4, and 5 look like? You know, and so that's where they build, and that's what we were talking about is moving forward that way and getting out there in off season, getting stronger, getting faster. You know, there's a lot of ways to do that from, you know, off season in the weight room, on the track, doing what you do, but then getting out and shooting and playing hoops on the side, out in your AAU team and doing all that business too.
Yep.
And everybody's doing it. So if you're not doing it, you're falling behind.
Yep, absolutely. And when it comes to falling behind, one sport that isn't seeing that is, of course, our soccer programs across the line. I mean, really, really dedicated to soccer here in Southwest ISD, and I think it shows because we have every team basically in the top 3 in district. Legacy and Southwest are constantly fighting for it. I know we have a big game for Southwest next week. Good old Chief Palomo, your Southwest ISD soccer fan of the week every year.
Soccer sideline reporter.
Yeah, soccer sideline reporter. He had mentioned Harlandale and Southwest, I believe, play next week. Those are tied for first place, both undefeated.
Yeah.
Both a huge game. That's going to be exciting. But talk to me about the Titans soccer program. I believe the girls are in 3rd, boys are in 3rd. That must be special as an athletic director to see both programs really high in the rankings across the board.
Well, we talked about that a couple times now. Is that you know, Legacy we're looking at it the other day, and Max Preps are extremely underrated on the boys' side. I think they're ranked like 159 or something like that.
Wow.
In 5A or something, which is kind of ridiculous. Speaking of Harlandale, great segue that the Titans lost in a shootout kind of. They lost 4-3 to Harlandale.
Yep.
And you know, Harlandale's played some really good teams, lost really close game to some real good teams, and as is Legacy. And so everybody better watch out for Harlandale. You know, the Dragons need to be ready for Harlandale next week. Legacy saw that. I can see Legacy beating them next time. The top 3 or 4 teams in our district are pretty legit.
Yeah.
You know, so the Lady Titans are technically undefeated. You know, in district. I mean, I think they're 1-0-2 and stuff because of, you know, soccer believes in ties. So 1-0. Well, they're 1-0-2. Same for the Dragons, 2-0-1. You know, so it's going to be, like we said, the girls soccer season is going to be a little bit more interesting on the whole. The boys is going to be everybody's out for the Dragons. Let's be clear. It's kind of like the old days with the Patriots, right? When you beat the Dragons, there's like if somebody beats the Dragons, there's going to be like Los Fresnos. It's going to look like they won the state championship. You know, we have that. We're blessed to have that kind of reputation, but with that reputation comes, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
There's a target on your back.
There's a target, and you got to be ready to play. Otherwise, you get to watch them Like, dude, it's a game. Like, no, it's a big game.
Yeah.
Every game's a big. The Dragons are a big game to everybody.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and so they got to be prepared for that. And Harlandale is going to be coming, and they're going to be coming hard. And the Titans are going to be coming, and they're going to be coming hard. And any single one of those teams can, on any given day can beat them. And
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
And I think, like you said, in district, both the Dragon men's and women's are in first place.
Yeah.
The big switch up, though, and this is where it gets interesting too, like you said, I think going into this podcast with you, we've been doing a lot of episodes already. We've been enjoying it. We've had a lot of great interviews. We're going to start getting some student interviews. But overall, going into this, I think it's very clear that I feel like there's a Harlandale Southwest rivalry brewing, just
Mhm.
because you look across the board from basketball to soccer to like almost every sport, they're always up there or battling for a spot against each other. And so with that, what is interesting is the Dragon boys, right, looking to lock in that first place, win district. They are playing South San at home on Friday, right, which is when this podcast comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are also, and they are also playing Harlandale at Harlandale, whereas the Dragon women's side gets to play Harlandale at home. So as long as they take care of business at South San, we'll see next week Harlandale come and play the Dragon women's to hopefully lock up that district spot too. So how important is that home field advantage for our Dragon girls soccer team, and what's the mindset for the Dragon boys to kind of go into no man's land and lock up district over there?
Well, I mean, they got to play again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's you get the home and home in soccer. And, I mean, it's as simple as, you don't have to get on the bus. There's not that extra thing that you got to worry about. You're not sitting out there sometimes if it's cold, all sitting there together and, the little things like that. I don't know that it's until those games get bigger, home, where everybody starts recognizing it and you get more people there and things like that. I don't know how much that is, but I do think that that just the simple everyday habits and routines that you do at home versus what you have to do on the road is a big deal. You know what I mean? And so I would say that, I think not to switch the subject, but I had a great conversation with Coach Romero this past week when we were talking about when we had our WIG meeting, and we were talking about the playoffs a little bit. You know what I mean? Not to look ahead, but we were talking about the district and everything, and we were talking about the Georgetown tournament a little bit, and he was talking to the Georgetown coach, and I hadn't realized, I forgot with everything that this is the first year of the new realignment, right?
Yeah.
So last year we lost to Georgetown in a barn burner and everything, and I mean we were one of the top teams in the state, and we win that game. We were gonna have another barn burner probably against Alamo Heights, but we'd beaten them before, and then we're head on to the Valley, and that was gonna be another barn burner. We had played in the Valley and won that tournament down there, so it'd been interesting. So he's talking to the Georgetown coach, and he's like, "Well, we'll see you maybe we'll see you in the second round." He's like, "No, you won't, coach. We're in Region 3," and we're like, "Good point.
Yeah.
Georgetown's not there anymore. You got Leander Rouse and you got Liberty Hill and things like that." But it's funny when we talk about winning and losing not really being in our circle of control, because you don't have control over who's in your bracket,
Right.
how good they are, who wins and who loses, all that kind of stuff. But the road is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's easier, but the matchups might be a little more advantageous.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can argue, and I think you can sit there and argue with a lot of soccer people that know what the Dragons looked like last year versus this year, and I don't know that you would find many people that say that we're more talented this year than we were last year yet. But the road is different. You know what I mean?
Well, I do think that Georgetown tournament, when we first started covering soccer on the podcast, was a huge
for both schools.
A huge get right moment, right?
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like
Yeah.
you're thrown into the fire. Those teams are real teams
Yeah.
that are gonna be in the playoffs and gonna be battling in their own regions and their own districts. And so that was a huge tournament, and to come out with the record that they did, I think was big. Like you said, Los Fresnos, obviously had
And that was our tournament. Yeah.
and that was a rough one. But the Georgetown tournament specifically, you're facing teams who, one, play at a high level, and two, like we always talk about on this podcast, play secondary sports and play outside of school, right? They have AAU teams, they have select teams, they play club ball. It's not just school.
Yeah.
And so you're facing teams that on their best day are, wildly more advanced as far as the knowledge of the sport, and you're able to still compete. And so
I don't know that they're more advanced compared to us, but compared to
other people that we are playing.
Play,
and that's what I mean. Yeah, 100%. Because our kids now are also playing club ball and also getting out to AAU still.
And we're trying to make it. We're trying
to make it bigger, right? But I'm saying for the most part, the teams that we're going to be playing are not going to be at the level of the Georgetown teams. In that tournament. So it was a huge tournament to at least see what's out there.
Yeah.
And then come back and hopefully you're ready to roll because you're not. I think you as a coach would agree. You're not playing for a district title. You're playing for a state title.
I think that the Dragons soccer team is playing for that opportunity to make it to regionals and state, whereas other programs are in that first phase of, hey, let's get to the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think Legacy's on that trajectory as well once we get going. And so that's pretty neat in soccer. And, I mean, to end the soccer discussion, it starts at the very young levels. And I know I've talked to people who listen to our podcast that are, the middle schools that we did that I've heard a lot of good feedback from that one. But if you look at our Under Armour programs that we do with soccer, basketball, and flag football, right? And that's where it starts. And then we're trying to move it into Rush and some CYDI, all that kind of stuff. But soccer at Southwest will have 400 kids playing soccer in our Under Armour program. We had 75 sign up for basketball. Yeah. And we had 115 sign up for flag football, girls and boys. And so football is not really as indicative of your youth program to how successful you're going to be at the upper levels, but soccer is. Yeah. Basketball is, because there's such skill-laden sports that we have to get to a point, and that's what we're working on, is to build a system in those sports that starts with that rec, but then moves them into a quicker moving into competitive club and things like that, so that when they get to middle school, our high school coaches, our middle school coaches are getting them, but they're coming to us with the ability to make a layup and dribble with both hands. You know what I mean? Same for soccer. So that's really something we're working on right now, and that's how you build championship, not district championship teams. That's how you build state championship teams. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what do you think, before we continue moving forward, we've talked about this now, I believe 2 times, about the AAU programs and stuff, and the Under Armour programs that kids are participating in at a young age. Do you think that it's only specific to Southwest? Do you think soccer is a pretty popular sport for young children in general, or do you think it's special here at Southwest because of the programs that we have in place? I think that there's a book out there that talks about that, right? Where you have a spark. So like our softball programs really hit their stride about 2008, 2009, right in there when they're going to the playoffs a lot. And then I think the greatest example of what those youth programs do is the 2014. Great segue is the 2014. Not you. That was my year, man. That was my homies right there. That's right. You were that guy. I was in the stands with the chants and everything. Yeah, you're right. You had the painted face and everything. I got you. Yeah. So the point being, when you had like Liz and you had Camry and you had all of those ladies, they played together from the time they were about decades, 8, 9, 10 years old with Mr. Vidalis, and so they came up through there, and that's what we have to get back to across the board, is that our kids play together. Then they play high-level competition as they're younger, and then they get into the true clubs where they're getting recruited. They're playing even bigger ones. But when you looked out, even when my daughter played in softball, we probably had we got gypped by COVID like a lot of people, but that 2020 team at Southwest High School was probably one of the top 5 teams in the state of Texas, top 10. And when you looked out there, you could name in the top 12 what club they played for. and stuff. And so the problem with that is that there's a financial barrier to that we need to continue to try to mitigate as a district, hopefully.
Correct.
And I know we got great support for doing some of that. But when you looked out there, you could see that, right? And when you look out there and you don't see that, unfortunately, incredibly unfortunately, the way our society's built the youth sports program, but it is what it is at this point, is it's very correlated to your wins and losses.
Right.
Is what it is right now, right? And so how do we build that? And that's what we're trying to do. And that goes from basketball all the way through.
Yeah. So you think soccer's popularity here in the district is because of the spark of how good the soccer teams
Absolutely.
have been?
You think about it, it's in 9 years, I think we've lost, or in the last 5 years, the boys soccer team has lost 4 games?
Yeah.
I mean, they were undefeated in 2020, and they didn't lose again until the playoffs in 2021. They lost, 1 or 2 games last year, and they've lost 1 game this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't lost more than – it's kind of like football. In the 3 years when we first got here, we lost 9 games in 4 years. You know what I mean? So those sparks are what drives, okay, this is how you do it.
Right.
But then you got the
Keep
challenge.
it going,
The challenge is to
stay consistent.
with it.
Right. I got you. Well, we look forward to talking more soccer in the future, and obviously we are always having an invitation out for our boy Chief Palomo, your number one soccer fan, and of course our good chief of SWISD PD. However, we do want to send a big congratulations and well wishes to our girls basketball teams who are ending their season, and then also we want to look forward, and this is where we get into the mind of athletic director Peter Wagner about softball and baseball, which are starting up next week, I believe, on Valentine's. A lot of games are happening.
Yeah.
So next Tuesday. And so with that, what are you expecting from Dragon and Titan? Baseball for first, and then we'll get into softball after.
I'll keep it short, right? So Legacy's
That's never a thing I take.
check it
no
out.
way.
Watch. I'm going to do this in about 3 sentences.
All right, go for this.
Legacy on both sides is still building.
Yeah.
Rebuilding in softball because they've had some great runs in softball. Rebuilding in softball with a new coach and new style a little bit, but
Nice.
But working on it and rebuilding. Got a great coaching staff though. Coach Stanford, same thing, building, continuing to find arms and doing that stuff, does a great job. On the Southwest side, I think restarting the streak of playoffs after last year a little bit, but as we just talked about in softball, but got some young girls coming in that have played a lot of club ball.
Yep.
And that are ready to and have been developed in the community and are ready to make. We got some pitching. Got some pitching that looked pretty good when they were playing. Here's the deal. The Dragons were up 1-0 on O'Connor in the 3rd or 4th inning, who was the defending state champions in 6A, when they scrimmaged over here the other day.
Right.
And stuff. And then last couple of innings when it's a scrimmage, so they made a move, but they have that kind of potential. I'm not saying state potential, but I am saying playoff potential.
Right.
And stuff.
Stay competitive.
Correct. And then the got a new coach at Southwest High School, Coach Myler. Same thing. We've been competitive. Lost to Medina Valley last year in the play-in game. He seems to think that we got some decent arms. They scrimmaged Stevens last week, and they ended up. I think they won 8-6 overall in 8 innings, but it was 6-3 overall. And so there's some positive vibes coming out of that.
Yep.
And we go from there. See? Short.
For anybody keeping count, that wasn't 3 sentences, but pretty close, I guess. My
I meant 3 paragraphs.
There you go. But short and sweet. We look forward to covering more on baseball and softball. As you guys know, softball here in the district is huge. Baseball is big in the district as well. We have a classic baseball stadium over here at Southwest High School. Of course, you have the softball stadium over here as well, and then you have a beautiful stadium, of course, at Legacy. All the new built-ins over there. So lots to be excited about when it comes to baseball and softball, and of course, soccer in the district.
I think we got some Pony League opening ceremonies coming up too.
Oh,
as
nice!
Come through there. So if you're young, and we need to get those kids playing in the Pony League,
absolutely,
and get them going so we can start raising some more baseball stars. Like I said, that was where it built.
When do you think we'll finally retire Brandon Medina's Pony League jersey? Just because, I mean,
Did you have one?
I'm a legend. Are you kidding me?
At the concession stand?
Listen, they call me the Nacho King. You kidding me?
Nacho King.
That's right. I was like, Mom, I'm not going on this field until I get my nachos. There's no way. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely we want to celebrate our Pony League. And if you have not signed up, I don't know if you can still sign up, whatever the case might be. But I know if you didn't, definitely do in the next following years. And then we look forward to another great season because that is where it starts and begins for a great run moving into our high school
way
levels.
to continue building our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're here for. We're all about the community. For Peter Wagner, I am Brandon Medina. This was another episode of your Scoreboard podcast. This is the premier podcast for SWISD Athletics. We will talk to you soon. And like we always say, we are Southwest.
Two,